for whatever reason, Kyle really looks at Kirk Cousins as like the platonic ideal of a quarterback. And that's where I don't agree with Kyle. I don't understand that. But as long as Kyle has this wandering eye and Brock may not be the one for him and Sam Darnold is getting a chance to show himself, next year Kirk Cousins will be available. And if either of these two guys doesn't get, the ring on his finger, doesn't get the proposal, Kyle could go back to his ex or, his star-crossed lover from ages ago. Is that destined to happen? Because I kind of feel like it is.
I fully expect it to happen. If Cousins hits free agency, I expect it to happen. And I know that scares a lot of 49ers fans, but let me just throw this at you.
Yeah.
If I told you were going to get guaranteed 4,300 yards passing and 30 touchdowns from your quarterback next year, and he was going to start and finish every single game, wouldn't you take that? Because guess what? That's what Kirk Cousins gives you every year. You might not like him. You might think he's not good in the clutch or in prime time or whatever, but the dude produces in a way that 49ers quarterbacks have not produced in a long time. Since Steve Young, really. We haven't had a consistent quarterback like Kirk Cousins.
I mean, I don't like Kirk Cousins, but everything you said is correct. And the thing about Kyle is, like, let's be honest about him, and maybe he has some self-awareness. Like, not only can he not scout the position, he can't develop it either. And some people will say it's not his job or whatever. Okay, but it's the most important position. He can't scout it. He can't develop it. Okay, but he can do a lot of things, and we've seen him and his dad have a lot of success with quarterbacks who don't need development. Like, is Kirk Cousins right now worse than Matt Ryan was when Kyle coached him? I mean, they're kind of similar, you could say.
Yeah, they're more similar than people want to admit.
Yeah, I mean, that neither one moves well. Both are kind of statues. Both of them throw the ball well. I mean, look, Kyle didn't win with Matt Ryan, but Kyle's never going to win. He's into this young quarterback on a rookie deal. Yeah, that's great. I mean, if you could find Brock Purdy's every year, that's great, but you need a developed quarterback. Brock is 22 and developed. Kirk Cousins is 35 and developed. I think it could work, but Kyle would have to keep him upright, and if Kirk Cousins get hurt here, then that just proves that it's Kyle's fault, because you and I disagree about that. And there's going to be some interesting tests. Jimmy in Vegas, does he stay healthy? That's an interesting test. And then if, Kirk Cousins, if he comes here. Because to your point, I'm looking, he never misses time.
Ever. He's tough. Like, people, he's a human sweater vest, to be fair, which I've told him to his face, by the way. But
what do you say to that? Yeah.
He just laughed. That's what I mean. What do you think he's going to get mad? He's Kirk Cousins. What's he going to do?
We talked to him once on a conference call. They used to do, you talk to the opposing quarterback on a conference call.
Yeah.
He was delightful. He was so nice.
He's perfectly nice. I enjoyed talking
with him. Is he too
him.
Nice?
I mean, he does.
I don't know.
It comes across as kind of rehearsed, kind of
Fair
inauthentic.
Be nice to the media. Win him over.
Perfectly nice guy to me. But here's the thing about the Cousins rumors that I think totally just chops the legs out from Lynch and Shanahan and everything they're saying about Trey Lance. If they're really as confident in Trey and his development as they say, why are there any Kirk Cousins rumors at the combine? You think they were talking about trading for Kirk Cousins to be a backup to Trey Lance? Hell no. So that just goes to show that when they were unsure about Brock Purdy's surgery and the outcome, they went to hedge their bets. And it wasn't just defaulting to the guy you took third overall in 2021. It was the opposite of what they said, right? They went out and looked for a high-profile starting quarterback that they wanted to be the starter to save their win now season ahead of Trey Lance. So when they tell me that they're confident in Trey and all this stuff, don't believe it, because it's clearly a lie.
And that's what I don't like. Kyle Shanahan tries to paint himself as the guy who keeps it real. The guy who keeps it as real as you can. And then he's over there saying, Trey would have had a really good season last year if he had played the whole time. Like, how can you say that with a straight face and then say he's competing with Sam Darnold to be Brock's backup? Like, those two things don't equate. They don't compute. And it's like, I'm sorry, like, you're a genius, but I'm not a freaking idiot. I went to UCLA. I mean, 49er fans can add up 2 + 2. Don't tell them 2 + 2 = 5. I feel like Kyle does that sometimes. He looks at you and says 2 + 2 = 5, and everyone in the room's like, hey, well, that's very interesting. Kyle said it. Did you know that? It equals 5. That's great.
To be fair, every coach does that. The difference is when you call Kyle on it, he makes it seem like you're an idiot, that you don't know what you're talking about. How dare you bring this up? That's the difference. And that's what bugs me, is not the fact that, hey, he's not being truthful. Every NFL head coach lies. Every GM lies. Sometimes there's must lie situations, and I get that. But when I point it out and call you on it, don't act with all this righteous indignation about how dare I question you. Just become a better liar, basically.
Also, like, the whole point of them talking at the owners' meetings was for them to shed light on this issue. They could have said, look, guys, it's March. 2 of the guys are hurt. We're taking it one day at a time. They could have said that and said, we're not really ready to shed any light because we'd just be guessing. And that would be a freaking fair answer. They didn't do that. They gave all this context and tried to explain things to their fans so their fans would understand and get on board. And they're just contradicting themselves from one minute to the next and acting like they're not. And that's tough because it's like, well, do you have a plan and you're not sharing it? Or are you just, filibustering right now and killing time until something materializes? It's hard to say.
They're both smart enough and they've been around the league long enough to say nothing if they want to say nothing.
Correct.
They
say a lot.
Say nothing. Right. They say something else. And so then, I'm going to parse your words. I'm going to go through what you say. You're in front of a microphone. You know how to do this so that we can't do that. And you don't ever do it. So don't get mad at me. It's on you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Kyle's a genius, but sometimes his command of the English language, like, he will say things that blatantly contradict themselves and act like he didn't. It's like, how are you going to say that Trey would have had a great year last year, but also say that Sam Darnold is cutting into his reps? Like, something changed, man. You can't tell me the only thing that changed is that Sam Darnold became available. He was always available. No one wants Sam Darnold. Like, come on.
Because he was hideously bad for 56 games. Even
That's
those magical 6 games at the end of the year were not really that great.
Okay? They weren't. And I think it's funny. People act like you can judge Trey on 4 starts, but you can't judge Sam Darnold on 56. 56 is enough. That's a big sample size.
It's more than enough. This dude's been 56 starts with 2 different teams, 2 different coaching staffs. It ain't there, okay? And for Kyle to say he's got as good a skill set as there is, I mean, that's absurd. Kyle, you really think Sam's skill set is as good as Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, and don't even tell me that Sam Darnold is the next Geno Smith, because Geno Smith was with the Jets as well, but he only started 30 games with them. He actually went 8-8 as a freaking rookie. Then he was a journeyman backup for a long time, and the Seahawks worked with him over years to get him where he is now. Like, Sam Darnold isn't magically going to come to the Niners and, like, find George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and become, Brock Purdy plus. I don't think that's going to happen. I think what he's going to do is he's going to hold the ball too long. He's going to turn the ball over if he ever freaking plays and get benched quick. That's what I think is going to happen.
Who is the quarterback that was that bad? 90 combined fumbles and interceptions in 56 games bad, that went to another team and suddenly was awesome. Like, who is it?
Who? Tell me. It's not Geno.
Especially in the last 20 years. No, Geno was never that bad. It's not even close. And Geno lost his starting job because he got punched in the face.
Like, honestly, I like Mitch Trubisky better than Sam Darnold. Like, Trubisky has the shame of being drafted ahead of Patrick Mahomes, which isn't his fault. And he became a punchline. And I think he has no confidence. But Sam Darnold, like, he just sucks. I don't know. I just think sorry, Sam, if I meet you and you hold it against me. And I'm wrong. I was wrong about Brock Purdy. But that's the results are in so far. 56 starts.
I don't know why.
Broke through.
Like you said, why are you over willing to look that, yet you're not over willing to look Trey's 4, which were never that bad? That's the weird part about the whole thing.
Well, simple as that.
Are you going to ask? I want you to ask Kyle if the team talked about trading for Kirk Cousins at the Combine, because I think his answer is fascinating. Because anything other than no, and the follow-up question has to be, why would you even look into that if you're as confident in Trey as you say you are? That's
a great question. Yeah, because Nick Wagner tried to ask the question, but he didn't ask about Kirk Cousins specifically. He was like,
drill down.
When there was some uncertainty at the Combine, did you think about trading for someone more, like, bigger? And Kyle, like, sort of answered without answering. You know what I mean? And Nick didn't follow up. So good question. The Gold Rush 561 says, imagine Niners trade Lance to Minnesota for Cousins. Trey with Justin Jefferson and Cook re-signed for 1 year would be dangerous. I think Minnesota was open to that.
Oh, I mean, their GM Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah said basically like we know we don't have good enough at the quarterback position. He basically admitted that. I think it was last year. He said
God
something
love
very
him.
similar to that.
And that's how I
And
feel about Kirk Cousins. Whatever you want to say about him, he's essentially not good enough if your goal is to win the Super Bowl. Essentially.
yeah,
So
I mean,
that's my
the
assessment.
only shot he has is to be on a loaded team like the Niners.
I mean,
It
he
to
has
be that
Justin
loaded.
Jefferson and Dalvin Cook, and he can't do anything in the playoffs. Like, I don't know. Then it's like the Niners
Yeah.
have that much better weapons than Minnesota. They have more.
They have more, and they have much better
more.
defense. Much better defense.
That's true.
So you don't need your weapons to do as much all the time.
I don't know anything about Minnesota's offensive line either.
I
Couldn't
either.
tell you.
I'm gonna be
I
honest.
don't either. Yeah, DeGrold, free Trey. I'm telling you, man, it's like the Shawshank Redemption for Trey. But hey, if what's his name? Say his name again.
Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah.
He was with the Niners a long time. I used to see him standing on the practice field. I think he goes back to the Harbaugh years. So that's another guy who was with the Niners when Trey was drafted. Yeah, I could see Minnesota wanting him. And if they're trying to move off of Kirk Cousins right now, I bet you they're not re-signing him, which means Kyle, Kirk, the reunion. It's coming.
KS plus KC forever, baby.
Well, he probably would get that tattooed on him, but he already has
The CS
Sims.
tattoo. Right. How many? You can't have more than
JTO
one
brought that up
initial.
too, man. Dude, JT. I didn't know JT before. I didn't have an opinion about whether I liked him or not before that video. I freaking love him now. JT, I love you, man. It's great. William,
I saw that video and I was like, man, did JT try and get a job on the staff?
That's what I
and
thought.
he got
That's what I
like
thought.
a lot of it was a joke because it was April Fool's, and I get that, but like not all of it was a joke. There was
I
some
totally
real
agree.
criticism in there.
I mean, they hired Brian Greasy, who had no experience. So as long as you're hiring former quarterbacks with no experience, maybe he put his hat out there. Maybe he didn't get taken seriously. I have a feeling JT O'Sullivan's never going to coach in the NFL. He just was talking like a guy who tried and got rebuffed and feels like, oh, because I don't have the right last name, I can't get in the league. Like, I played in the league, but I can't coach. But this freaking guy can coach. And that's true, man. I think Jeff Garcia kind of came up against that as well. He wanted to coach. He had a whole academy down in freaking San Diego. It looked like he was taking the right steps, but he just got shut out. And I don't understand why.
Nepotism is a huge part
huge.
of the NFL. Mike Florio's talked about this too, about how part of it is like coaching is so all encompassing. It takes everything that you have that these coaches can't spend as much time with their kids as they want to because they're always coaching. So what's one way to do that when the kids get older? Bring them onto the coaching staff, and then you can spend more time with your kids. So I think that's a huge part of it.
That's funny. That assumes that the coaches actually care. That's dark though. But because the way I look at it is
that's an angle
with
that
a lot.
you took.
Yeah, I don't want to go down that. But the way I look at it is a lot with a lot of these coaches, like their family is the team. And the actual family is like, sometimes it's like collateral damage, or it's like narcissism. Like you feel like you're supposed to do it, but you're not really into being a dad. Or when they say like, I want to spend more time with your kids. No, your family is your team. And that's always an excuse, but that's dark. I don't need to go down that. We're not talking about that.
There's a price to greatness though. You can only be great at one thing, really. If you want to be
the
great
best
at it.
If you want to be the best at something, that's your number one concern, not your kids. And I think it's irresponsible to bring people in the world if you're more loyal, devoted to yourself and your craft than these. Like, why did you decide to do this? Like, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to have kids. There's no rule. Hey, I'm 35. Oh, biological clock. I had to have the kids. Like, no, you did that because, it was like you wanted to name them Grant Jr. or something. You know what I mean? It's a testament to yourself and you're great. That's what
that kid no chance right there.
Yeah, like you gotta actually want, and that's the thing. Like my dad had a little bit of fame. He was on billboards around town, but he was never like, hey, I gotta be the best columnist. Fuck you, Grant. Like he was the best dad, and that's why I love him. Pops, if he's watching,
he's not.
That's what I was thinking. He's not watching. He doesn't really love me at all.